Next bill on the agenda, House File 20, Representative Greenman. I think I saw her come in. There she is.
All right, thanks.
Members, I will move that House File 20 be re-referred to the Committee on Ways and Means. Representative Greenman, to your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I do have an amendment. Do you want me to start with that?
Let's start with the amendment. Let me find the amendment. First, it's the, is that A18?
18.
A18 amendment?
A18 amendment, yeah.
All right. I will move the amendment and Representative Greenman to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What this amendment does is it simplifies the reimbursement process, turns it into a rebate process. It updates the amount of the appropriations in line with the fiscal note, which should be in your packet, and it adds a report for higher ed to report back to the legislature.
All right. Any discussion to the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. Representative Greenman, to your bill is amended.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, members. It's really nice to be in higher education on this bill. House File 20 will end the exclusion of hourly school employees from our unemployment program. Many of you may have heard this bill before. We traveled through many committees last session. It's been around for a couple of years, and the exclusion is actually 80 years old. This is an important policy that will ensure that the tens of thousands of bus drivers, educational assistants, custodial staff, food service workers, and other folks in our workers in our colleges and our university and schools have the same access to unemployment insurance benefits that other Minnesota workers have. This bill is simple. It adds a provision to current law that hourly workers can use their wage credits they've earned to collect unemployment if they're otherwise eligible for unemployment. In other words, it removes the blanket exclusion in current law that prevents hourly workers in our colleges and universities from being able to access unemployment insurance between the academic terms. It also sets up unemployment insurance aid that to support the University of Minnesota, Minnesota State, and tribal colleges to reimburse the cost of this policy change. We know that these Minnesotans do amazing work. They are working hard, and they are often the lowest paid workers on our campuses. They support, they feed, they drive, and they clean up after and for our students. These workers always deserve this fairness, but after the last couple of years with the disruptions and the hardship, it only increased the need and highlighted the need for this change. And I just want to highlight a few reasons why I think as a state it's really important that we do this. First, it is a critical safety net for Minnesotans working paycheck to care for our students. Most of these folks work year-round. Most people need to work year-round, and these workers are no exception. Many of them are getting paid around $15 an hour without access to health care and insurance. They're living paycheck to paycheck and working to support their families. Providing this economic security, this safety net for workers who find themselves out of work through no fault of their own is what the system of unemployment insurance is for. It's that safety net that most Minnesotans have access to and everyone should be able to rely on for economic security. This also provides stability for students and our campuses by providing workforce stability. We have a workforce staffing crisis everywhere, including on our institutions of higher education. This means shortages of staff on campuses means that there's no staff to provide or shortage of staff to provide transportation, food service, and custodial services that our students rely on. It's stressful for students, for our campuses, and of course for our workers themselves. This current law makes it harder to retain and recruit those workers that our higher institutions rely on. There's really high turnover in these jobs, and a lot of it has to do with if you don't have job security for those 2 or 3 months out of the year, you may not be able to keep that job and you may go looking for something else. This policy provides stability in the workforce that is really critical to continue to retain and recruit new workers. Last, I'd say it's just the fair thing to do. These are Minnesotans playing critical roles, ensuring our students have access to healthy food, providing a safe and clean environment for our students, transporting them to and from classes. They deserve the same economic security as other Minnesotans, and other Minnesotans in seasonal jobs have access to this unemployment insurance. This exclusion just applies to these workers. This is a workforce that's majority women of color, women and folks of color, and we do a lot of lip service about how important these folks are. Now we need to make sure that they have the economic security. The last thing I would say is our current law actually treats workers, employees who have different employees differently. So if you are a employee in food service and you work for the university, you are excluded from unemployment insurance. If you're an employee in food service and you work for an independent contractor, you have access to unemployment insurance. So at the end of the day, what this is doing is providing the same economic security for our workers as most Minnesotans rely on, and ensuring we have fairness in the in our law. And with that, Mr. Chair, I think we have a few workers and testifiers.
I think you have 3 people on the list, so who do you want to have come first?
Mr. Chair?
I've got, is it just Shemek?
I don't have a great order.
Welcome to the committee, and please identify yourself for the record.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is Jess Shimmick, and I am a college lab assistant 1 at Anoka Ramsey Community College. I've worked there for 8 years. I am one of 2 CLAs in the visual arts department. I specialize in photography in the 2D studios, while my coworker specializes in the 3D studios. I am also on the executive board of AFSCME Local 4001, and I'm a steward for my campus. Thank you for hearing my testimony today. I am here today to express my support expanding the eligibility of UI to higher ed hourly workers. There were years that I really needed some financial assistance from the state that was not there for me during my summer layoffs. At times, we've done, my family and I have done various things to help with that. We sold one of our cars so that we didn't have to pay for gas or insurance on 2 vehicles, and I instead ride my bike, and I eventually bought a scooter that gets 80 miles to the gallon to help with those bills. We only travel during the school year when I am getting a regular paycheck. During the summers, we rarely go far. We can't afford anything too extravagant at that time. The economic security of this bill can be the difference between me making ends meet or taking money out of my deferred comp. I do have a second part-time job shooting real estate photography that I do concurrently with the school year. Usually that works out well because it's not too busy during the school year and I pick up a lot over the summer. However, that's not always the case, and that's the housing market is a whole other can of worms. And when the housing market slows down, I can lose nearly all of my summer income. I enjoy photography and I like the flexibility, but it isn't a perfect situation. If I can't count on getting any income from my college or my photography gig, having access to unemployment insurance while I search for another short-term job would protect me and my family. I also want to take a quick minute to describe what I do. I know that Mary Falk will be up here and talk a bit more about who exactly we are that will become eligible. But to explain what I do, I am a very modest person, but myself and my coworker help keep our department running. We deal with all of the studio supplies, we place orders, we make sure things are stocked, we make sure that the students are working safely. We make sure that the chemistry for the photo lab, that's my job, is handled correctly. We also have a lot of 3D studios with a lot of sculpture equipment and glass blowing that we make sure that our students are safe for. So we keep things going. We help the students when they have questions and listen to them when they need help. So thank you for the chance to testify today.
Thank you. Next on the list is Mick Kelly. Welcome to the committee, and please identify yourself for the record.
Certainly. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Mick Kelly. I'm a union steward, a member of Local 320 over at the University of Minnesota. And I've been working as a cook at the University of Minnesota for the last 21 years. It's an honor, actually, to be testifying here in favor of in favor of House File 20. It's an extremely important measure that workers at the University of Minnesota really, really need. We have a situation at the university where we have 12-month appointments. Many people are expecting to work 12 months a year or something close to it. And the reality is we often come in at something like 7.5 months out of the year, actually, is what we end up working. We need this bill to pass. There's a reality that we have bills to pay, our families to feed, rent to pay, everything else. We have the same expenses as other workers. And the reality is our work is not particularly stable. We need this bill to pass. We see it in terms of staff retention, too. For example, I work at Pioneer Hall, where we serve about 5,000 students a day. And last year, the beginning of the school year, actually, Pioneer Hall was part of a national news service, a news story, because we were unable to feed the students on campus along with the other dining halls. Instead, there was Lunchables here and this there, and the reality was long lines and students weren't being fed. And part of that was the low wages. It's hard to get people at low wages, and we're addressing that. But another part of it is it's not a stable job at this point. We need the committee's assistance in this, and we need you to pass this bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Mary Falk. Welcome to the committee, and please identify yourself for the record.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee. Thank you for having me here. My name is Mary Falk. I am a vice president with AFSCME Local 4001, and we represent the workers at the majority of the two-year colleges statewide. I've been hoping for this bill to be passed into law for so many years. It doesn't affect me personally because I am a year-round employee, but I worry about all our members, and that's what's important. It's about being fair and right for our folks that are the seasonals that in the summer, they don't have any income, and it's just not right in my opinion. I'm just going to cover the various job titles that we anticipate will be eligible for the benefits if the bill passes, and describe what the workers do. It's my understanding that most legislators understand pretty well what the K-12 system, what the seasonal is there, but the higher education is a little bit less known. So I hope this will clarify it. And also, these job classifications, it's not everybody that's in those classifications that are seasonal to be eligible for this. So it's really a small group of people but we need to be fair. So the college lab assistants, like Jess just spoke about, and they set up the labs, keep the labs safe and clean, order supplies, and support the students in those labs. Library techs, obviously, are in the libraries, helping students with their needs in media. Food service workers, who are some of our lowest paid workers, and they really struggle. Office administrative specialists, they provide support for deans and faculty at a lot of our community colleges. And then campus security officers. A lot of them are year-round, but some of them are seasonal. So those are the main classifications for those people who would be affected. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer as I can.
Thank you very much. Members, questions to the bill as amended? Representative Cleaborn.
Thank you, Chair, and I just want to say thank you to the man who has prepared the meals that my children all enjoyed. So my children all lived in Pioneer Hall. It's family tradition, so I just wanted to say thank you. And Representative Friedman, I really appreciate your bringing this bill forward. As all of your testifiers have stated today, this is long overdue and much needed. So thank you for your support for our workers and for bringing the bill forward.
Seeing no further questions, so I'm sorry, Representative Robbins, I should have looked.
Wasn't going to get off that easy.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Greenman and your testifiers for bringing this bill. I have a lot of questions, but I'll trying to just stay focused on the higher ed piece. This looks like it's $108 million in a one-time appropriation.
Representative Greenman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Representative Robbins. If you look at the amendment and the fiscal note, it's not a one-time appropriation, it's an ongoing. It is 809,000 for Minnesota State a year, 366,000 for the University of Minnesota year, and then the Office of Higher Education, which is for the 3 tribal colleges, is currently at 495,000. That's based in the most recent fiscal note, which got a pretty accurate estimate of who those workers are, and so that's where that is. You would have to calculate it up, but I think it's 104 million.
Representative Robbins.
Thank you. So can you just explain, part of my concern about this at the K-12 level, but also at the college level, is that there are a lot of summer job openings, and if people are eligible for unemployment, would they have to first apply for those job openings before they would be able to get unemployment? Or if they're just in a seasonal or calendar year contract, would they not have to apply?
Representative Greenman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Robbins. And this gives me an opportunity to show off to Deed how much I have learned about the unemployment insurance system, who is here and can serve as backup. But this doesn't change any of the current rules of our unemployment system, which is you have to be available for work, you have to accept a job if it's a job that is similar. And so as we talked about in K-12, as we talked about in workforce development, the reality is what we're doing, and this is why it's actually a staff retention it'll help with staff retention, is we're ensuring that workers who are on 7 or 8 or 9 month contracts know that if they can't find a job in that summer month, if it takes them a couple of weeks, when we hear about folks, sometimes they get offered a job, but it's only 6 weeks, it's not the whole term, that they'll be able to fall back on unemployment benefits. If you're offered, and if you're offered a 12-month contract, great. I think that that's what everybody would strive to, and I think that that's what we heard. But if you're offered, a contract in that summer, that you'd have to take that if it was a same or similar job.
Representative Robbins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for that. And secondly, I wondered, at the K-12 level, if it's not enough in the bill to cover it, it would trigger the calculation of the levy. But for higher ed, if it's not enough, if this appropriation is not enough to cover it, how would that be addressed?
Representative Greenman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Robbins. And for the interest of brevity, we did not, in the last 2 committees, we actually heard some presentation on how we think that this is a pretty conservative estimate based on the recipiency rates, based on the average income calculated, that Deed is calculated based on the information we have. But what we know from Illinois is it's a lot less. And so I think actually what is more likely to happen is that this estimate is going to be high and it's going to come in under, especially at the K-12 level. I think that I would have to go back and look at it, but I think that we would estimate that it's about 35 or between 28 and 40,000 or $40 million, not 132. And we did not add this testimony to this committee because we've heard it twice before.
Representative Robbins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for that. If there's more appropriated than it is necessary, does it cancel back to the general fund, or what happens to that money?
Representative Greenman.
Yeah, that is my understanding.
Representative Robbins.
One last question, sir. Thank you for all these great answers. I just wondered if not you yourself, but someone from the different university systems could provide some data as we go forward on, how many workers this would cover at each system, and also how many summer jobs they have available that would be offered, so we can have a little more data underneath this. Thank you.
All right.
Just one.
Freeman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Robbins. And on that first part of the question, if you actually dig into the fiscal note, they do estimates based on their actual population of the folks that they anticipate being eligible. And there's actually some really good charts in here. So on the first question of who would be eligible, on the second question, I think I would defer to folks from Min-State and the U of M to give you a better sense of the summer job situation.
Representative Robbins. Representative North.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Thank you, Representative Greenman. This has been a work of love to make sure that we take care of those who take care of our kids. This is an overdue. That exclusion that has existed for many years, I think it's time to end. One of the questions that I have is the schools and the colleges are considered to be reimbursing employers. And looking at the fiscal consideration, I see that there is an option of them becoming a tax-paying employer. So how will that really impact when we're looking at the fiscal? Because I see that it was included in the fiscal note whereby I see that they could be up to 9% rate when we know that this, essentially the schools reimbursing employers, so whatever we pay out is what they pay back. I just wanted to get that clarity.
Agreement.
Mr. Chair, I think I'm going to bring up Deed. I think we anticipate that folks will continue to be reimbursing employers in the way that we set up the unemployment insurance aid at both the state or at the higher ed and K-12 level anticipates that. But I think you're probably referring to something that was in the fiscal note, and that probably came from Department of Economic Development.
Welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Evan Rowe. I'm Deputy Commissioner for Workforce Services and Operations at the Department of Employment and Economic Development.
And did you hear the question?
I did, Mr. Chair. So thanks, Mr. Chair, and Representative Knorr. That note in that piece in the fiscal note is just to note just a fact in UI law that reimbursing employers can choose to become tax-paying employers. So that's just kind of a proviso that we put in terms of the analysis. We don't know that they would do that. We have no reason to believe that they would do that. It's just it is a thing that they could do if they chose to do it. That would change the analysis a little bit, but we have no reason to believe that that would be the case.
Representative North.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Deputy Commissioner, for that response.
Representative.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Greenman, for bringing this bill forward. I think in this committee we spent a lot of time talking about the workforce shortage, and I think one piece that we don't often talk about is that retention piece that Representative Greenman has referenced multiple times. And we all know, of course, that it's much more affordable for businesses and for everybody who has employees to keep an employee on rather than seek out new employees. So I think this really is a critical piece to that. And just again, want to echo sort of the basic fairness argument, which I recognize may not be the most powerful one for all of us, but it certainly is for me. And then the last piece is, too, we've talked about issues with regards to enrollment and some stories that have come up in particular with regards to the Twin Cities campus at the University of Minnesota. And I certainly remember that Pioneer Hall story. And I have to think that as we think about sort of that public perception piece of why folks do or do not go to college or university, as a parent, I would certainly think ability to feed my kids would rank pretty high up there in terms of things that I'm looking at. So I think this is just a really, really, really important piece. So just want to thank you for bringing it forward. Thank you.
Any further questions, members? Representative Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, members, and I really appreciate the questions and the discussion. This bill has had a robust discussion at both the K-12 and the higher ed level, and I think sort of whether we're talking about our workers in our campuses or universities or in our schools, the principle is the same, which is we have unemployment insurance for a reason. It is to provide a economic safety net so that folks, if they're laid off or lose their job for for no fault of their own, that they have that backup economic security that lets them stay on their feet, as you heard, pay their bills, and feed their families. And this exclusion, which has been here for 80 years, is long overdue. We're overdue in ending it, but I hope that this is the year that we do it. And I really appreciate all your support, and I especially appreciate the workers who've been after committee after committee after committee, telling their stories and telling how much they'd impact year after year. So with that, Mr. Chair, thank you so much.
I'm going to renew my motion that House File 20, as amended, be re-referred to the Committee on Ways and Means. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion prevails. Thank you, Representative Greenman.